how to move away from a food scarcity mindset and get to a food abundance mindset in order to stop binge eating and overeating. So in our current society, you may feel like you live in a world full of food abundance because you likely don't have to worry about where to get your next meal. You know that you're gonna have a plethora of options in grocery stores. You know that food is easily accessible to you and that you are able to cook meals all the time and you're not going to go hungry. There's not going to be a famine. So even if food is abundant physically, you are telling yourself that you're not allowed to have these foods because they are bad, because they're going to make you gain weight, they're going to make you fat, all of that. And therefore you are creating a scarcity mindset around food. And then this leads to intense cravings of the foods that you can't have and overeating and even binge eating. So here's how you can get out of that. First, let's address why you need to be getting out of this scarcity mindset, what actually happens when you're in it. So when food is restricted, your body will interpret this as a form of scarcity. Your body doesn't know that this is coming from you that is choosing to restrict foods and that food is actually abundant. It only knows that it's telling you it's hungry and you are not feeding it. It's telling you that it wants pasta and you're feeding it zucchini. So when this happens, your body has great evolutionary mechanisms that are going to be put in place in order to help you survive. And these will include slowing down your metabolism so that you burn off less energy and can conserve more energy because food is scarce. And it also entails increasing your ghrelin hormone, which is the hormone that signals hunger, so that you have more motivation to go out and seek out food. So this is the physiological impact of what happens when you restrict foods. And there's also a psychological impact that can be very important. And this one has been shown time and time again. And one of the most important experiments for this was the Minnesota starvation experiment. I have made videos that talk about this before, but basically during this experiment, they had men go on a semi-starvation diet where they completely reduced their calories, and the men started to become completely obsessed with food. They would think about food all the time. It would consume all of their thoughts, and then when they were allowed to eat again, they became overweight because they just wanted to eat so much. So psychologically, what's going to happen is if you're not able to access the food, you're just going to get these intense craving for it. All you're going to think about is the food. You're going to become completely food obsessed. The problem usually is that you're going to start binging, and then you're going to tell yourself that this is horrible, that you're going to gain even more weight. So you're going to restrict your food intake even more. And so you're going to be in an even bigger state of food scarcity, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So here's how to get out of it. And also don't hesitate to check out my courses if you want more in-depth help with worksheets and things like that. And I'll have the information for my courses linked in the description. And I also offer consultations if you feel like you really need one-on-one help with this, which is totally understandable. The first thing you need to do is to eat regular, balanced meals. Now, I've said this before, you can't stop binging by just telling yourself that you're gonna stop binging. You need to take it the other way around, and you need to give your body less reasons to binge. And if you're actually eating full meals that are balanced, that give you all the nutrients you need, and that satisfy you, that are filling enough, then it's gonna be much easier not to binge. But that's really what you have to start out with. And if you're unsure about how to go about this, check out the video I have on healthy eating for beginners. You can check it out right here or in the description. You need to make sure these meals are regular as well, because if you're skipping meals, that's giving huge scarcity signals, huge we're going into a state of famine signals, and that's really not what you want to do. You need to show your body that it is safe and that you're giving it food regularly, food is accessible, everything is fine. Number 2, focus your attention on all the wonderful foods that you can add to your diet and the variety that you can have in order for your meals to be satisfying and to reduce intense cravings that then lead to binging. You need to make sure that you have variety and that you're not always eating the same thing. And when you're trying to lose weight, it can be very easy to focus on all the foods that you're not allowed to be having, that diet culture tells you that you're not allowed to be having, until you forget about all the wonderful foods that are available and that are super healthy and that are going to bring you a bunch of nutrients. So focus on adding a bunch of these foods to your diet. Now, I'm not saying restrict the other ones. I'm just saying don't think about these foods for now, but just we want to get you into this mindset of abundance, and that can be easier to do while you're starting out. It can be easier to be adding foods that are like more whole foods. That way you're not going to get these kind of like triggers if you're all of a sudden adding a bunch of pizza and cookies to your diet. Again, we're going step by step, and it's a good way to start. Number 3, you need to incorporate some mindful eating practices into your way of eating, and I have an entire playlist on that. You can check it out here. But in short, you need to learn to listen to your hunger and fullness cues. So a lot of people tell me, well, I can't stop eating when I'm full. My body just doesn't want to. Usually, if this happens, it's because you're also not listening to your body when it's telling you it's hungry. So when your body tells you it's hungry, you need to eat within like 30 minutes. Because if you let yourself starve, then of course, you're not going to be able to stop when you're full either. And you also need to be very present as you are eating your meal. You need to be focused on your meal. You need to be appreciating your meal. Make it a nice, calm moment with at least like 20 minutes, a full 20 minutes, where you just have some quiet time and you can be fully focused on what you're eating, fully present. This really helps you be more in tune with your hunger cues and your cravings, and you're gonna feel much more satisfied with your meals and much less likely to binge. Number 4, you need to start reframing your negative thoughts. So now that the basics are down, you're eating your balanced meals, you're eating them mindfully, you're incorporating a bunch of whole foods, now you need to start switching the kind of negative behaviors that are in place. So for this, you can use cognitive behavioral strategies in order to reframe certain thoughts you have that are rooted in food scarcity and shift them towards more like food abundance. So if you start telling yourself, I can't have these fries because they are bad for me, they are going to make me gain weight, and then, you know, that's the worst thing that can possibly happen. Reframe this thought and tell yourself, my body is smart. My body is able to tell me that it is craving these fries, so I'm gonna eat some of these fries. That's gonna satisfy my craving. I'm also gonna be adding maybe, you know, some veggies so that I can add some nutrients, and I will trust my body to let me know when it's had enough, and I will simply move on. So in the beginning, of course, you may find yourself overeating a little bit. You may find yourself going beyond fullness, and you may find yourself craving a bunch of foods, and that's normal. It's because you've been restricting these foods in the past. They weren't allowed. So of course now you're gonna have this little compensation phase, but don't worry. The more you give into it, the more you listen to your body, the shorter this phase will last. And number 5, now that kind of like ties in with that one, once you've kind of addressed those limiting beliefs and you are kind of shifting them on a like cognitive level, it's time to also shift them on a physical level and actually allow yourself to gradually have these foods and to just introduce them into your diet. There are multiple ways to do this. Some people like to go all in and just listen to their every single craving and eat everything they want for a little bit until that dies down. You can totally do that. Or some people like to take a more gradual approach where you let yourself have a little bit of food that is like usually a trigger food or a fear food for you, and then combine it with some safe foods and then just do that increasingly. If you want, I have a video on getting rid of fear foods that I think can help with this process. You can check it out here or in the description. And again, if you need one-on-one help, don't hesitate to look into my consultations. So step 6, now that you're on a roll with all of that, you're introducing these foods little by little, you don't have as many fear foods, trigger foods anymore, you need to remove feelings of guilt when it comes to eating. Research has actually shown that if you tend to eat a food while feeling guilty about it, you're more likely to overeat compared to if you're eating a food and just thinking about like pleasurable things. So that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that you are associating food with pleasure and never with guilt. There's never a reason for you to feel guilty for eating too much or eating junk food or whatever. There's literally no link between that, between like eating and guilt. There should be none. What you can feel is listen like to your body, to your physical signals, and feel, oh, maybe I'm a little bit stuffed. I don't feel too comfortable. I feel a little bit sick. Next time, I'm not gonna eat as much. Or next time, I'm not gonna eat the ice cream and go for the fruit. That's gonna help me feel better. These are the signals that you wanna be tuning into, not the guilt. And in order to free yourself from the guilt, you again need to give yourself this permission. And this goes hand in hand with really learning to listen to your body, like we kind of talked about earlier, because the more you learn to trust your body and listen to your body's signals, the less room there's going to be for guilt, because your body is going to tell you what it needs and you're going to listen. And that's really it. There's no place for guilt. And what you really need to work on is the day that you do go past that fullness, acknowledging that it happens. We're not perfect. We're not machines. Sometimes it happens and that's okay. You can just acknowledge it. Try to do, like next time, try to listen to your body more and just like keep note of that and then move on. Again, no shame, no guilt, no going on 1,000 diets because, you know, you ruined everything. It's totally fine. And number 7, which kind of is linked to like all of these, you need to challenge diet culture. You need to continuously be informing yourselves on the dangers of diet culture and how it has no place in your relationship with food, and instead focus on like all the other things we talked about and like remove yourself as much as possible from toxic, harmful messaging when it comes to food. And this is a really like an ongoing process. It's really easy to get sucked back in if you've been in diet culture for so long. So this is really continuous work that you need to be doing. And when I talked about the like kind of cognitive behavioral strategies, that's also a big thing, is like whenever you do have a diet culture thought that comes up, you need to squash that. You really need to squash that. And I actually have affirmations available if you want. I'll put the link in the description. And these affirmations help you like reframe certain thoughts about food and help you have like positive things to counter like the negative diet culture ones. And you totally don't have to get these. You can come up with your own, but these are the ones that I came up with and that I think work really well. But if you want, it will work just as well, maybe even better, if you take some time to counter negative diet culture thoughts when you have them. Make a list of ways to counter them so that you kind of work on that subconscious level of you being ingrained in diet culture. So that's it for this video. I really hope that it was helpful and that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.